Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm just going to go into a little flow. I like to connect in with my higher consciousness. I call them my higher guidance team. And so my intention is always the highest levels of love, light, and unity consciousness. So we are sharing a different type of frequency, for we have initiated many different activations in this now moment. And when we say we are essentially a collection of many different frequencies from many different realms, yet it is all embedded within the earth, for the earth consists of all of these realms. She is a conglomeration, one might say, of all energies that have come together to co-create a place, a habit to live and thrive and grow together through, in, and from. So essentially, I'm being shown Earth like a meteor hit Earth, and the meteor held water, and the earth formed from carbon and all of the elements. And I'm seeing that all of those elements have connections to other star systems. And so sometimes we refer to us as hybrids. Well, the earth is that as well. She is a soup of all different planetary conjunctions, one might say, from one perspective in this galaxy, but theoretically it could be from other galaxies as well. For example, well, that's a whole other. And so we wish to go into the inner earth for just a moment, for the energies that we see as part of this collective. I'm actually tuning into a little bit more Andromedan frequency, but this is also tuned into many different collectives. I just want to talk briefly about that. From my perspective, when I'm sharing this information, I'm pulling through all aspects of me. So theoretically, if we feel that we are have connections to our DNA to systems such as Andromeda, to systems such as Arcturus, to systems such as the Pleiades, and so on and so forth, that would be an example of higher dimensional or potentially higher consciousness versions of ourself, or connections to other aspects of the fractal that is the whole, WHOLEROL, that is connected to our consciousness, our DNA, so on and so forth. And that's essentially what I'm tuning into. So Inner Earth has established herself as a sanctum, one might say, a place of renewal, a place of rebirth. And as we play with this particular transmission, we invite you to feel into the inner earth transmissions, the energy that is teeming, that is bubbling up from her center. And we wish to get away from the conceptualization of a molten hot lava core. We wish to move away from the idea of those that would say the inner earth has teams or is brimming with other beings who are not necessarily positive, or who are potentially creating conflict, for that is a story that has been attached at times to Inner Earth. And there are other versions and other stories of beautiful places inside the earth, such as in the movie The Land Before Time, as if it is a time travel type place. And so we would just steer you in the direction of going in within. So taking a moment and letting go of all preconceived ideas or notions of what Inner Earth is and what it represents. And we just invite you to tune into the frequency and vibration of the true heart, the truth of the inner earth sanctum. For within this deep space of beautiful frequencies and vibrations holds a pattern. It holds a sound. It holds a recognition key, one might say. It gives us the ability to utilize this key to recognize the greater diversity that Earth holds within her spectrum. We use the word spectrum for it calls to us a vision of rainbow or light that may be cascading through, not just at us, but through us. For the color spectrum is just that. It is a frequency of light and a transmission of sound that ignites a particular schematic or vision of what that means to us. Instead of looking for the meaning behind the sound, we invite you to feel into the full spectrum of the sound that is held within the crystals, within the dirt or the soil, within the plants and the animals that all grow up from this innate well of liquid light, we might say, for the purpose of this particular transmission. And held within this space, in this liquid well spring of Earth, is a code. And without getting too off base and going into particular movie schematics that one may bring to mind, such as the Matrix or a computer program, we would play for a moment with what the word code holds. And I'm being called to just pause for a moment, so I will. And so briefly, code, linguistics, a particular elect or language variety. And unwritten rules. Oh, there's so much here that I could play with. And I will, a body of law, any system or principle. Oh my goodness, signals, communication, making communication by means of signals, a system or rules, regulation. And system of expressing information. So I see it as I'm sharing this, like the DNA is a code. It's got letters but that would be a linear representation of what the code actually is. So within this Earth, within the center of her core, I'm hearing the simplex, the syntax, the simple genetics. So many plays on words, and I might be going into that wordplay in just a moment. For within this syntax are more codes, and there are more varieties of words that we could flow into with a more systematic approach that has a scaling effect, that has a scalar effect, that has a bigger wave that is able to encompass and encapsulate more within that wave, where it is an an electrical impulse that is sent out and signaled out that creates more signals within the codes of the body and within the system in which the syntax is interpreted. So we will stay with this flow, for it is easier to flow in this way than to slow down and try to decode the code as it is written. For as it is written has already been coded and has already been decoded, for there is no time, for the code that we are impressing upon is beyond time. So we go back to this code that is held within the Earth, and within her syntax, within her memory, within her established frequency domain, there is a cluster of energy, and this cluster of energy holds with it a deep innate geometry, one might say, of configurations of complex molecules and elemental configurations that create a limbatic, and this is a play on words, limbic, limbatic, lymphatic system. And this is then sent out in a signaling modifier or a modification of exchange that is essentially received and sent back in order to create more frequency domains. So these energies that we are exchanging with on a regular basis create some sort of unilateral complex that allows us to merge and co-create in a linear fashion, yet it is beyond the linear conceptualization that many of us carry as a code. So many of us have been encoded with an idea or a packaging design in which we create and co-create together a wordology and a neural network of information that we then begin to signal and pick up on. And so as these signals strengthen, they strengthen our linear conceptualization and enhance our own ability to create a reality within that structure. So we go back into the inner earth, and this particular syntax that is being associated with this particular wordology or geometry just in this moment creates a pattern. And she is creating a pattern that we are hearing, we are harmonizing with. I'm hearing vocal syntronics. This is all a play on words, and we invite you not to get hung up on the linguistics in this moment and just feel into the vision or the picture that is being offered in this elemental exchange of frequency dynamics that allows us to interplay and co-create with this energy or frequency that is being stirred up within the earth's loins, we might say, within her womb. And so this is a frequency that is now in the process of being reworked, meaning we are feeling the frequency and then we interpret it in such a way that allows us to create a scale, which we referred to earlier, or a harmonic adjustment based on what we can handle. And so we are consistently being called to recall anything that is out of alignment and to bring it back into a place of true intercellular communication so that it may be adjusted, or so that the adjustments may be made in order to synchronize with the more harmonious scale. For many of the scales that we have been synchronized with or seemed like we were synchronizing with, we're actually out of sync. And I'm hearing a reference to out of touch, out of time in reference to a video I just did talking about our relationship with time and not really recognizing that we weren't touching. It's about our senses. So when we allow ourselves to find this space and we allow ourselves to fine tune what it is that we are interfacing with, we begin to face our challenges in a different way. We begin to tune into and convey and make the appropriate adjustments that allow for an analytical organization of that which cannot be analyzed. And it allows us to make the adjustments so that we can further analyze the schematic and readjust accordingly, play on words, an accordion with the notes and the filing and the sound. And so as we do this, it allows us to sound out a frequency and from a platform that was previously inaccessible before. And we know that this is a very technical transmission, and this was the intention of me. The intention was to tune into potentially a bit more of an Andromedan flare. And this Andromedan flare that we are presenting is a very technologically advanced presentation, for we are coming into a time in which the technology that many of us are accessing or that we have access to is beyond the frequency that we are able to hold in a regular formation. And so this is where consistency is key. So we tune into this earth frequency right now through our intention. And so we would invite you to tune into that which is stored in the earth that is waiting to bubble up and be felt in the senses. And we utilize our Arcturian counterparts and invite you not to get hung up on a particular galactic flavor, for we are all the flavors. I'm hearing 31 flavors, and it is indeed delicious. when we allow ourselves to play in this way. For the interpretations can be divinely orchestrated in such a way that we are able to utilize a multifunctional patternization or play with the fractal in a much more linear way. So let us play with the Arcturian flavor for a moment, because that energy will help us to convey the frequency that we are spelling out, or that is spilling up from the earth, that we are accessing in this particular geometry in this now moment. So we invite you to sit for a moment and allow yourself to feel into the light that is pouring up from the pores within inner earth, within her. For she is making some deep adjustments that are necessary in order to create a cohabitable existence. And so we invite you to move away from any fear or any feelings of frustration in which we hold on to things while they are going through this adjustment period. For the more we can feel fluidity, and the more we can allow ourselves to feel into the frequencies that are being offered through love and appreciation and gratitude and awe and wonder and joy and bliss and laughter, the more sustainable this frequency becomes. The bigger adjustments we are able to handle. And the bigger handles, seeing a reference to this other Andromedan, like higher frequency, like a handle on like social media, the more people that tune into it, right? It's a play on words. And so as we feel into this energy that is, I'm seeing jet, like a jet fuel, and I'm seeing it literally being like a toroidal field and jetting up from the earth, like it's energetically being pulsed out. The more we can tune in to just the simplicities and simple pleasures in life, the more we uptune. And the easier it is for us to feel into a different type of technology, the innate technology versus the old story technology. And it allows us to create a separation from that which is no longer compatible with our new frame of reality, our new frame of our bodies, our new framed out architecture of reality. And so we are being called again and again to breathe and to feel the relief that that breath brings through us. And it allows us to move away from the, I'm seeing like this hostile environment. So I'm seeing this old version of Earth that looks like volcanoes and lots of lava and heat, and I'm seeing it, we're actually feeling what's beneath that, which is a very beautiful liquid crystalline breathing pulsating energy. It's got this it kind of looks like aurora, but it's like this liquid blue violet, like a light lilac periwinkle on undulating light. And it actually has a very cooling and calming effect for the stabilization of the frequencies. So it's like these two things are coming together, right? Creating friction. But if we can allow that friction to kind of dissipate, that cooling energy soothes the soul, soothes the senses, soothes the, I'm seeing a spacesuit, our bodies. So let us go back into now the technological terminology. So as we access these different dimensions, and as we move and move into or catapult ourselves through these realities, we must not lose sight of the ways in which to organize and better understand this requires us to be present. It requires us to have the breath. It requires us to maintain a signature frequency, and it requires us to maintain a I'm seeing it a dip, but that's a play on words in the patterns. So we will feel dips, highs and lows, but I'm hearing that song, you dip, we dip, we dip. So I'm seeing like the sweetness of life. Remember those dip candies? And I'm also seeing the dip as in dance. So it's a dance, it's an ebb and a flow. And we just move with it. And we're in less resistance to it. This allows us to calibrate our frequencies in such a way that we can understand the undercurrent. We begin to understand the science behind what it is that we are experiencing. We begin to reorganize that which was scattered on the wind, or that which was, I'm seeing like sent back because it wasn't understood. And we begin to call it back in to us in such a way that we can communicate with it. And what is it? Lost frequencies, frequencies that were put out to pasture, one might say, because they could not be pasteurized. That's all a play on words. They could not be understood in the dimension that we were existing within once we recognized these frequencies as being unrecognizable. So they were unable to be communicated with in such a way that it allowed us to fully understand them or to utilize them to create a living architecture. Therefore, they were not interacted with. And we understand this is confusing and may not make sense to some, yet on a deeper level, it is the senses that are being heightened that are actually allowing for us to make a deeper sense of what it is we are explaining. For reality is not always explainable from the perspective that we hold, depending on the reality that we are tuning into. And so many of us have been tuned into a particular ideology or informational exchange that is old. Yet held within that old network are some very useful applications that can be applied to the new network. And yet we are also simultaneously inviting those who are ready to jump into the new platform, not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. It is all usable. And so we are, I'm seeing cells in a body. Some are composting, some are creating, some are white blood cells, some are red blood cells. We each are holding a different job, one might say. So we're being called to utilize the earth in such a way that she harmonizes us and we harmonize to her. In doing this, we become smarter. We actually begin to understand more at a cellular level, for the innate is within ourselves, and the infinite spiral that many are seeking to understand is within us. And so we have been consistently looking outside of us and searching for bigger schematics to make sense of the basic schematic that we all hold the pattern of. And so without the earth and without tuning into our frequencies that the earth is offering, our frequencies is an exchange of the human and the earth collective and the inner earth beyond that which is just out in the stars. We must tune into our own inner star. And in doing so, we ignite a platform that was previously undiagnosed before. Play on words. It was previously undiagnosable because we didn't have the technology in which to understand the diagnosis, even if it was given to us. I'm seeing handed to us. Some people unwrapped it and then went, I don't know what that is. What is that? What do I do with this? So it was put up on a shelf. Getting goosebumps. Whew. So we can sometimes pull out that seemingly old information that's stored on a shelf and now look at it with special delight. For we see it with new eyes. We see it with a new application. We see where it can be applied now with this new ability to see, with this new creation that we have created, if this makes sense, and even if it doesn't. For we are all each within part of this unification with the greater picture that we are searching for. And so we are consistently being invited to go back within to our home base storage facility. For held within this storage facility is a bank, and within this bank is a value system. And held within that value system is a schematic, and held within that schematic is a frequency, and held within that frequency is a sound, and so on and so on and so on, in the fractal that we all are part of, yet completely held within. That was a play on words, like we're part of it, but we're also all of it. And so we are in the process of rerunning diagnostics and seeing where those things that are out of place perhaps need to be integrated or dissolved. And so those things that maybe are there for us to rework into and solve now become more accessible to us and more readily available, for we have become smarter from one perspective. And they, if we want to call part of the fractal a they, as separate from us, which is not true, but is from one point of view, the truth, depending on the point of view that is held within as we view it. There are those that would say we are not intelligent and that our intelligence is based on a false system, or we need more outside resources to tell us how smart we really are. And yet we would venture to say that is a one-track mind that is taking us on one track and not a track to true multidimensionality and true highest functionality that we have stored from within. And so we would invite you to see beyond that, to see through the plasticity, to see through the plastic, to see through the fake illusion that many would like us to stick to. For once we stick to it, it allows us to fall or fail, or I'm hearing it's like a program that then makes us feel like a failure in other areas because we have not necessarily completely understood this one track or this one program, or better spoken, we do understand it. And because we don't understand the other, we turn away from it. For that understanding of this new track makes us feel like we're not a failure. So there's lots of ways of looking at it depending on where the ego rests. And so we come back to the multidimensionality that we are all encased within and part of. And so the more of us that can connect to this deeper crystalline frequency that is within us, the smarter we become, for it bathes our bodies. We actually utilize our breath to bathe our own rebirth. We can utilize the waters of the earth to bathe our minds and our hearts and our frequencies. For she makes a sound, she makes a communication, she makes a tune, and we're going into many different regions right now as we share this information. But it creates a vision of all of the oceans and all of the energy that these oceans provide. And we begin to then change our dynamic and how we interact with this living orchestra that is playing on Mother Earth, through Mother Earth, with Mother Earth, as Mother Earth, through us as well. For we are walking bodies of water held within a cellular matrix of vibration and sound. And so let us reorganize and come back into oneness and centralize in our inner sanctum, our inner center, our inner standing, our inner home. And in this, we become more intelligent, and we become more intelligently heart-centered and aware of how to have a greater impact on the greater whole in oneness rather than in separation. I'm going to end on that note. In love and light. Namaste.